Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more pleased to have back on the line the one and only Bob Chapman. Welcome back, Bob.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be here.
You know, you're the hardest working man in the truth business, so let's get started. Bob, let me throw this at you. We've got Portugal default, we've got Syria, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Japan. It just seems like the world is on the edge, and then last night American Idol was still on American television, so it appears that everything's fine.
Well, I guess you could say that if you really didn't understand what was going on, and the majority of the people in the world don't, but there are a great combination of things. One of them untoward, which was the event in Japan, the earthquake and then tsunami and the aftermath. I guess that was an added bonus for the people behind the scenes to get people looking in the wrong direction in regard to their financial and monetary problems. And that's what the Middle East is all about as well. And I think these things are going to be going on and being in the news for quite some time to come.
It seems like we've reached a quickening, though, doesn't it, Bob? It just seems like, in a week or a month, previously it would take a month for these large events to roll out one at a time, and now they're coming daily. It's almost hard to keep up.
Yes, there's lots going on. There's lots of ramifications. You take Japan. What's it going to cost? They're talking about $309 billion. That's not the truth. Somewhere between $600 billion and $1 trillion is realistic. What have they been doing? They've been selling Treasury. That's why the G7 said they had to go support the yen. They weren't supporting the yen. They were supporting dollar-denominated assets such as U.S. Treasuries because the Fed couldn't handle them all. And so they had the other 6 nations come in and buy them for them. Then later on, the Fed will have to take them off their hands, plus or minus, who'll know. And the Japanese are going to have to raise more money. I figure $300 billion from the sale of treasuries and agency securities, which is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, and FHA, and then $200 billion in bonds sold to the postal savings domestic service that they have there in Japan. And thirdly, I think they'll probably float $200 billion in yen bonds to foreign buyers, which I think that they can place. That'll give them $700 billion for starters. These are the things that are not discussed on CNBC, etc.
Let's talk a little bit about the pigs, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. Now, as Lindsey Williams has noted, when we see the euro fall, we know the dollar is, 2-3 weeks behind. And Phoenix Capital Research is noting that the dollar collapse could begin in 3 to 4 months just based on the way the dollar's, been behaving. What's your take first on the euro countries, and what's your take on the future of the dollar in the near term?
Well, they have a meeting going on in Brussels, and it's gotten nowhere, supposedly because of the problems in Portugal. And that in part is true. But the real problem is the Germans don't want to add any funding. They thought they could add to a whole package of about $1 trillion, another $1 trillion. They being some of the rest of the members of the European Union. And the Germans come right out and said, look, we don't even want to commit part of $1 trillion. And Mrs. Merkel, and this is in one of my articles recently, was badly defeated in her home state because the Germans want out. They don't want to be in the euro. They don't want to be in the European Union. And they don't want to be bothered. It's as simple as that. They can compete, and they don't need anybody else's help. And that's probably true. I lived there for a long time. I speak German, so I understand how they think. She, because of her political position in relation to her constituency, which is now all the German people, if she wants to stay in office, and her CDU party wants to stay in office, she better do what the people want. And the people don't want her in their country spending whatever part of $1 trillion that they have to spend, or are told they have to spend, and they don't want to do that. And so she said, let's cut back. So if you cut back, where are you at? She knows, and they know, you need $3 to $5 trillion to clean this mess up. They don't have it. If they, the healthy ones, Germany, France, Holland, Austria, out of 17 nations, they're really the core, and they're healthy. If they go ahead and go to 2 trillion, they're all broke.
Right.
It's insanity.
Right.
And so the euro is going to come down, but against what? I mean, you have a couple, 3 or 4 strong currencies in the world right now: Swiss franc, Norwegian krona, the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar. All of them in pretty good shape. Even the Mexican peso is doing better. And so, which is worse? Well, probably the U.S. is worse. And so the U.S. dollar will go down first, and the euro will follow it. But the bottom line is this. Most of these people are guessing, and you shouldn't do that. I've been involved for over 50 years in economics, finance, political issues, all over the world. My whole life has been devoted to it. So, and my work in counterintelligence and having lived over half the world and speak 5 languages is really helped me. And what we're looking at here is a situation where you don't want any currency. Only what you need for operating purposes. All your other wealth should be in gold and silver coins, bullion, and shares. It's the only safe place to be. Mm-hmm. When is the dollar going to go down? I don't know. I don't care. And the same with the euro. Because nobody knows. Not even the guys on the inside who are pulling this caper. They don't know.
But we just know it's coming.
That's right. The trend is your friend. In this case, the trend is not your friend, because the dollar and the euro and all the other currencies are all going to go down versus gold and silver, as they have for the last 11 years, to the tune of somewhere between 20 and 24% annually.
Let me ask you this. David Morgan, for whatever reason, continues to sound the alarm on what he thinks is the very real possibility of government confiscation of silver and gold. But he's noting silver specifically. And I personally just can't imagine a scenario in which that would happen, Bob, because I think they would cause a shooting war. What's your take on that?
Non-professionals guessing. He's trained as an engineer. I was trained in the markets. I mean, look at how many of these people who make these prognostications have been trained in these disciplines. Almost none of them. Mm-hmm. Paul Craig Roberts, Max Kaiser, myself, maybe some others that I haven't thought of. But most of the others, they've come to their own conclusions. They haven't been trained in these areas.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree that would be? I mean, of course, anything's possible with this government. But what would even be the point of trying to come after a $40 billion market and try to? It makes no sense to try to come.
It makes no sense, and the same thing is true with gold, and silver. Less than 2% of the people in America own gold and silver. Why in God's name would they want to collect it? Less than 0.8% own gold and silver shares.
Right.
These people don't think things through.
Right.
Another thing I notice all the time, people sensationalize things in order to get subscribers.
Right.
And I think it's deceitful, and I think it's wrong.
Right. Where does that leave the little guy, or the guy, I'm the little guy, where does that leave us, the people who have been into this silver and gold buying only for the past maybe 4 years, or people that are listening to this right now that haven't even made their first purchase? I like to tell people that they haven't missed the boat on silver at $40 an ounce because of the 100-to-1 paper-to-physical manipulation that we know exists. You can make a case right now for $400 an ounce silver, and it's not an outrageous case. So, what's your take?
My take is every 2 weeks I buy silver. And I don't care what the cost is. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Because you're getting out of fiat.
That's right.
This concludes Part 1. Click here for Part 2.